Almost sorry we're running a couple minutes late. We're having too good of a time in the hangout. If you're not joining the hangout, make sure you join those. Those are a lot of fun. Some great conversations going on in there. Um we went quite late last night. So yeah, it was a fun one. Thank you very much for all those that hung out and had a good time with us. So yeah, let's get the party started. Our first talk today is going to be from Adam Jackson, and yeah, had a great chat with him. It was a week or two ago. I forget when. And he has been over the past few months working on migrating from from Foundry to Foundation. And today he's going to be discussing his journey and what he's discovered. And yeah, all the amazing stuff that he's been doing. So I'm looking forward to that. I know a lot of you, because of that whole debacle, have been, strategizing and wondering, how you can migrate your Foundry websites to Foundation, or another framework. And yeah, so I hopefully you guys get some insight from Adam about that today. Thank you very much for joining, Adam.
You're very welcome, Joe. It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I hope I'll be able to give people the insight that they're looking for.
Excellent. I'm sure they will. I appreciate you coming.
Cool.
So cool. I give the mic over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to attempt to get Zoom to share my screen. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that.
Yep, we're good to
hi
go.
Everyone. I'm Adam Jackson, as Joe mentioned. And I thought I'd talk about a little bit about me first and where I've come from, because I'm not a web developer or a web designer or anything. So we try and, there we go, a bit about me. So, as I say, I was never a web designer. I spent 30 years in IT, and I've managed development teams over those years. But mostly I just smiled and nodded at these guys who knew much, much more than I did. But in 2018, circumstances changed, and both my partner and I decided that we would do something completely different. And we're photographers now. We specialise in food and drink. This is not an advert. I know none of you guys are going to need food and drink photography. But we needed a business site. So I spent quite a bit of time looking around the market to find something that would work. And I saw RapidWeaver. It was ranking high in the Google search. And I realized very quickly that RapidWeaver was very limited. Going back to what Joe was saying in the Hangout, RapidWeaver wouldn't exist if it wasn't for stacks. And this whole thing about being the third tier down on the totem, I get, and it confused the shit out of me. It really did. But eventually I got figuring out that I needed a framework, and for that to work, I needed stacks with a big S. And 7 years later, I'm still not a web designer. God knows I've tried. So, Foundry. I looked at all the options. Foundry, Foundation, Source, Platform, and I actually bought them all. I had Foundation 1, I had Foundry 1, Source and the Plus Pack, and I thought I'd have a look at Platform as well, which I believe doesn't exist anymore. But Foundry appealed to me. It was powerful enough for what I needed. It was very intuitive for me. The settings pane, as it says here, made sense to me. And sometimes, even now, I'll pick up certain stacks and look at the settings pane, and I'm like, I have no clue what's what. It's a completely different language. Something that's always really appealed to me is very standardized language and terminology that I get. And so, yeah, the Foundry just kind of vibed for me. Um, there's a lot of this. Alloy became my go-to CMS. Sorry, Joe. I haven't looked at TCMS yet. Maybe with version 3, we'll see how it goes. Um, the thing that I liked about Alloy, it was simple, it was effective, and but it was tied to Foundry. I broke shit all the time. That was something that I was very good at during my IT career. My teams used to hate me. Um, and, this was new, so I just broke stuff. And eventually Adam invited me to join his beta team, which was, I think there were probably 6 or 7 people involved in that. What I'll say right at the beginning is I do consider Adam to be a friend now, and I've got nothing bad to say about Foundry or Elixir. So if anybody's here for some shit flinging, that won't be happening. Foundation 6. I was really lucky. I mean, Joe was very, very generous with the free upgrade from F1 to F6, and I was lucky enough to get F6, and it was new, it was shiny. I thought I must have a look at this. I watched all the videos. I knew swatches were a really, really good thing. I could just tell this was really different, and it could make such a difference to life, the universe, and everything. But at that time, it was still a layer of complexity that was just, it went over my head. So I carried on with Foundry 2 and Alloy, which I love. And then Foundry 3 happened. As part of the beta team, I had early alpha and then beta access. I had direct access to Adam, so almost an online tutor for classes, which were not something that I'd ever been comfortable playing with. And Foundry 3 has Blacksmith. For those who don't know, the way I would describe it now is it's a load of swatches all packaged up into a single group, where you can set margins and padding and borders and lots of good things, backgrounds and shadowing. But they were quite big. I mean, every Blacksmith element was quite large. It did still take quite a while to stick. As I said, this is not my natural domain. But I could throw together a site for our other side businesses, and in fact, one for my partner's friend I did in pretty much 2 hours while they were drinking wine. So that was really, really useful. And of course, my confidence had grown because I was older, possibly wiser, and I built up a little bit of knowledge. But our main site in Foundry 2 was a bit of a monster. So I thought, I'm just going to leave it where it is. It's one of those things, I'm a real magpie when it comes to stacks. If Joe ever goes through my order history, I've got pretty much everything. but I was terrified to migrate our main photography site away from F2. And then we know what happened. It's been done to death. We're not going to talk about the whole damn thing. There's no point. But it did cause a huge amount of uncertainty, and I think that's probably put it mildly. And we know Adam Elixir did what he did. He decided it was too much, and for personal reasons, he did what he did. Now, obviously, I need our sites to keep working. I had a potential future risk to mitigate. I don't know what's going to happen with PHP or anything else that might impact my ability to actually have a website working for our customers. And by this time, the F2 site, as I said, it was bloated. I'd thrown a ton of stuff at it because it all looked cool. And then back end of last year, we decided that we were going to rebrand our business. So that then gave me a risk-free opportunity, a brand new domain name, everything, so I could do what I was going to do risk-free. So I picked up Foundation 6. And actually, this was the light bulb moment for me. I understood classes. Swatches made sense to me now. And of course, by this point, this is October, November last year. Foundation 6 has come a huge distance since 6.0. Yeah, and so had I. Blacksmith had prepared me for swatches, which was great. And actually, what I found that because most of the styling elements in Foundry 3 were in Blacksmith, and most of the styling elements for Foundation 6 are in swatches, actually things like containers and columns and grids and everything else, buttons, not that different. So it was so much easier. Foundation 6 didn't feel like a complete, well, it wasn't screwing my head anymore. It felt comfortable. And that was huge. That was huge. And realizing that I could set multiple classes to to particular elements like buttons, and now I can just drop in a button and it's styled instantly. It's killer. I mean, I know you guys are way more advanced with this stuff than I am, but that made such a difference to me. I guess, little things please little minds. So in November last year, I started building our new site in Foundation 6. And I mentioned the bloat on the previous site, and we've rebranded, so we've gone much simpler. But I had a working site built in 3 weeks from a standing start. Which was, I'm going to nick a workmanism. It's pretty cool. The site's there. If anybody's even slightly interested, I'm not going to bore you by showing it to you. There's a still image coming up. And of course, I've been tinkering with it ever since and learning more and refining swatches. And I started off with an impact banner, which I've since taken out, and just keeping it nice and clean. I'll probably never stop fiddling around with it, to be perfectly honest. It is what it is. I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure everybody here does exactly that with all of their websites, apart from you guys who are building sites for people for money. And then you're tinkering with purpose and they're paying you an hourly rate. I'm doing this, A, because we need it for the business, but actually I really enjoy playing with Foundation 6 now. So that's a big deal. The tinkering has mostly been to simplify it, standardize settings, making sure the styling's all nice and neat and tidy. I'm a little bit OCD about stuff like that. But with Foundation 6, it's easy. And it's no more difficult than anything was with Foundry 3. The site is pure F6. It's got Photo Pro, clearly, with photographers. I do use call to action. There's a couple of third-party stacks. We've got Obscure from DoBox. And there's a couple of Will Woodgate stacks in there just because they're small and they're very performant and they do the job that they needed to do. But apart from that, it's pure F6 and it's really quick. I do still miss Alloy. That isn't going away anytime soon, but I will try Total CMS at some point. So this is the front page of the website, Photo Pro. There's a little bit of our work there. It's clean. I love wallpaper. That's across the site. I love the way many of Joe's other stacks have the swatches, and it just works and it integrates beautifully. I'm really pleased with that. One thing that I would say about this for my American friends, these are called chips, not what you call them. What you call chips are called crisps. You're welcome. So let's talk about a few issues and how I got around them, because this is actually quite interesting. It is to me. Some Foundry stacks just don't exist in F6. And I don't know enough. Well, I don't know enough code. I don't know any code. So there was I had very limited opportunity to do anything with them. So, for example, scroll to top. Now, I know Joe's got Elevator, but Elevator 2 wasn't out at that point. And as I said, I'm a bit OCD. I wanted its style to fit in with the website. So I spoke to ChatGPT and said, what am I going to do now? And to my surprise, ChatGPT knows all about Foundation 6, the framework, and it knows a fair amount about Rapid Weaver stacks and Foundation 6. It's insane. So me and Dave, who I call ChatGPT Dave, we had a conversation and probably took 3 or 4 goes round while I realised that it hadn't taken account of some of the styling that I wanted and said, no, actually, I want it here. It needs to be this colour. And it gave me CSS and JavaScript, which does everything, styling the button, positioning the button, pops it up, fades it in, and it does it after you scroll 1,000 pixels down the page. And so that's now sat inner partial, and it's on every page on the site. It's really clean. I mean, I'm assuming it's really clean code. I should probably send it to Joe and say, what do you think about this? Either that or that I should just say screw it and get Elevator 2. But it really works. And that's so great, particularly when, the community is really helpful. More on that later. But actually, if you want instant answers, ChatGPT can be your friend. Obviously, you may have gathered that I'm not American, and consequently, sometimes I found myself when Gary one wasn't online waiting. You have to wait until Joe woke up to get answers, but ChatGPT just did it. So next issue, no list group stack. So I know there are a ton of different ways to achieve the same result in Foundation 6. There's so many different ways you can get to the same end goal. And there was no list group stack. So I thought about it for a while. Adam had given me some HTML that I was using in a list group, and it was very specifically so that I could have the nice checkbox at a certain size, in a certain position, with a certain amount of gap between that and the title and then the subtext. And that was really great in the list group. But of course, it's Bootstrap. So I had another chat with Dave, and it gave me Foundation compatible HTML, restyled it the way I wanted it in a matter of seconds. It was just so quick. And then I did some more tweaking with it to fit in with our new site styling. And it just did it. So rather than the list group, that's now in a Foundation 6 HTML stack, which is sat in a block grid. I friggin' love block grid. Really, really love it. I had feeds because it came out, it was shiny. I love feeds. Haven't found a use for it yet, but I will. And it always bugged me that I didn't. The Foundry grid stack and column stack just wouldn't work. I could stack stuff one on top of each other, but I could never get a grid out of it. And now I can. It just works. That's beautiful. Love the block grid. And now I have a typinator macro that inserts the headline and text, and it just does it, chucks that out into HTML. So I can't remember when I got Typinator, but it was. I would highly recommend Typinator if anybody's looking for some sort of keyboard macro app. And then third issue. There are other issues, but these are the highlight. These are the ones that I remember. We use Brevo for our CRM, and GDPR and all those other compliance requirements. I wanted to put a proper compliant form on the site. Looked at Post Office, it's not specifically set up for Brevo. So Brevo gives you the HTML. It's HTML for an iframe. I didn't know what an iframe was. So I thought, well, there's an HTML version that it says you can just put this HTML on your website and it'll work. So I thought, well, I'll have another conversation with Dave and get it to create a version that would be styled for our website. Yeah, again, ChatGPT to the rescue. Not so much. It really struggled. We had many iterations. I spent a lot of time trying to get Dave to come up with the right HTML, and it really struggled. We went round and round in circles, and in the end, I thought, I wonder what happens if I just put this iframe HTML and an F6 HTML stack, and it works. So my learning from this is keep it simple. I think there's a tendency, and I probably was guilty of this with Foundation 6 when it first came out. I probably overcomplicated things. And I think that there's probably a bit of fear in people's heads coming from Foundry to Foundation. Oh my God, it's really complicated, but it doesn't have to be. So tips and tricks, particularly for people coming from Foundry, but actually generally, for what it's worth, I know most of you guys are way more experienced than I am, but this is just my 2 cents. Get site styles right. Once you've got site styles sorted, it makes everything so much easier down the line. Just start with the basics and stick to the default stack settings. And I try to get clever with some of the column alignments in columns and grids and centering things vertically and horizontally. Just leave everything at the default to start with. And then actually everything's gone back to the defaults now because it just works, which is really cool. And then you can experiment and tweak. I think it definitely pays not to try and be too complicated with things from the off. ChatGPT is really helpful. It will style font awesome icons for your markdown, and as I did, built a scroll to top button from a standing start with no real problem at all. So it's definitely, if you're getting stuck, have a chat with whatever your iteration of ChatGPT is called. I use the pen stack everywhere to document what I'm doing. It really helps. I particularly love being able to just take a group of stacks inside a pen stack and not publishing them. It's so quick, it's so simple, and it really helps with troubleshooting what's going on. And it's especially useful in site styles. So I've got swatches grouped. I've got an off canvas and my scroll to top button. So I've grouped all the Z index, Z index swatches. I've got those all grouped together. I've got all my button styling grouped together in a pen, and I can get to things really quickly, and they're color coded. Pen is so simple but so useful. I also make extensive use of the title in containers, particularly. Oh, get the Foundation swatch pack. it is absolutely freaking awesome. I love the swatch pack. It is just a must-have add-on. Um, so obviously there are a lot of Foundry users out there who are looking for a new home. Um, and I thought it'd be useful just from my experience, things that I've seen, how can everybody help transitioning users? Take it with a pinch of salt if you want. Um, just remember that not everybody is either a seasoned F6 pro or even a seasoned web designer. I do see a lot of one-line replies in the community, and that can, in my opinion, lead to more questions than answers. Um, and I know that sometimes that's because beginners don't always know what they don't know. And they're not always going to use the correct words. You know, I used to get in trouble even with Adam on occasion if I used the wrong stack name. So if people are transitioning from another framework, just bear in mind that they may not get the words quite right. This is a big one for me. Searching in the community is really difficult when the vast majority of posts are titled Foundation 6 issue. I have no idea what's in there. And then this is an issue with the community software. When you do a search and you've got your list of all the topics and you're going through and you start scrolling down and you click on one of the threads, and then you come back out of it takes you straight back up to the top, which can be a wee bit frustrating. So wherever possible, it would be really useful. If people could label or title their post meaningfully, and that's not just you guys. I mean, that's everybody generally. But also, Joe, if there's any way of being able to really now show results that actually have the search terms in, that would be brilliant.
I don't know if I think it was 2 weeks ago. The community actually got an entirely new search engine. So I don't know how much you've played with it, but it's been completely revamped. It's not perfect, but it is 100 times better. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. You beat me to the punch. Now, when Foundation 6 first came out, and everybody knows this, that there was no documentation. The documentation now it's night and day. It's so much better than it was. What I would say is that the Foundation 6 document project file is more what you can do with Foundation 6 rather than how do you do it. And so it needs some reverse, and you have to reverse engineer to do what you want to do. Adam's documentation for Foundry was absolutely best in breed, and I think F6 could be as good.
That's fair.
But there's still a bit of work to be. I mean, I know what an enormous task it is, and I know that you don't have a great deal of spare time, Joe. The videos are great, but the Stacks Guru online search has been such a game changer for me, because, and again, you know this as well as I do, Joe, that people have been suggesting, could we have something like this for the longest time? Because you're going through a live stream that might be 2 hours long to find that 5 minutes that you really need. But Stacks Guru has just been phenomenal. So thank you guys for doing that. So summary, not bad. If you're on Foundry, don't panic. I mean, it's not going to break just yet, but Foundry 3 to F6 is not nearly as scary as you think. It's actually pretty comfortable. They're broadly similar. 5 months in, I haven't looked at Foundry 3 at all. I can't remember what the settings panel looked like now. F6 is really ingrained, so it's quick to pick up. If you're on Foundry 2, going from Foundry 2 to Foundation 6 is much more of a mindset shift. It's very much old world to new world. But what I would say is it's well worth the effort. I was lucky. I had the opportunity to do it risk-free on a brand new domain. But I'm very pleased that I did. I've said it before, I love playing with Foundation 6. There's always something new to fiddle around with. And it's just fun, actually. I love it. As I mentioned before, start with the basics, site styles, use the defaults for, all your standard stuff like containers, columns, grids, and then tweak if you need to. You probably don't need to. I think the defaults are pretty good, actually. And again, as I said, there's so many different ways to get to the same end goal with Foundation. I've decided that I'm going to stick with the block grid because I love it. Over columns, I think it just gives me more room to breathe in the future. That's me, but there's loads of different ways to achieve exactly the same layout on screen. Bit more summary. Once you've got the hang of swatches, you will never look back. Never look back. It is once you've got your head round classes, once you've got your head round the fact that you can apply a swatch to an element like a button, or underlining a menu when it's on hover, you couldn't possibly go back to the old world. ChatGPT, really useful. It knows stuff. It can save you a ton of time if you're waiting for people to wake up on the West Coast, particularly if you're in Europe. So use it. It knows a lot. Documentation, as I said, Foundation 6, it's great. There's a ways to go. Get the Foundation swatch pack. Seriously, if you haven't got it, get it. Seriously. After 5 months, I'm really, really happy with Foundation 6. Foundry 3 was great. For reasons outside of my control, I couldn't use it anymore. I'm really happy with Foundation 6 now. It's brilliant. I love it. but I do miss Alloy. um, that's all I got. I hope I wasn't too boring, people.
No, that
Um,
was awesome.
any questions from the group? Ooh.
Sure. Um, so I'm going to start off with one. Um, what was so I know you saying it was really hard to get over that cusp of understanding the class, and maybe it's going to be hard to explain, that, but like like what was the final click for you that allowed you to understand how to apply a style to some sort of stack element?
I'm gonna say that it was Blacksmith. It
Okay.
was just because then, back then my mindset was right. I've gone Foundry 1 to Foundry 2,
Mm-hmm.
um, Foundry 2 to Foundry, and Foundry 1 to Foundry 2 was some additional stacks,
Mm-hmm.
and it was completely backwards compatible. Um, Foundry 2 to Foundry 3 needed a complete rewrite, for want of a better word. It was you got to start again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and as I said, I had direct access to Adam. So when my brain froze, I could just type up on Discord and say, "What the hell is this? How do I do this?" Um, and he explained it. It's a while back, so I don't remember exactly what he said, but somehow it clicked. As I've said, I was not a coder. I was not
Mm-hmm.
a designer. Um, if you put some JavaScript and some CSS in front of me, I couldn't tell you which was which. So I didn't get it. I just didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And something about, okay, so we're going to set up a style sheet in uh, in Blacksmith, um, and that style sheet is going to have a name. And if you want to apply this style sheet to a particular element, you type the name in this box here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's, obviously to everybody, that's class. And then I started thinking, oh, this is what I missed with swatches. Um, and I suppose in a very real way, it also um, made me realise that okay, so I can have a border and a shadow and a background and some padding, and they're all the same class name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is now, I suppose, in a way, what I've done with the pen stack in site styles is
Yeah.
create a kind of blacksmith alike,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Makes
effectively.
sense.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see. I got a question. What are the reasons you miss Alloy? So I mentioned actually I was going to reach out to you after this, probably next
Yeah.
in the week or two, and
Cool.
discuss like what do you love about Alloy that you feel you miss. Now I'll preface this with one of my goals with Total CMS 3 is to have a video that is a blog in 60 seconds. Okay, that is
Okay.
my goal. I hope to make it. And another thing that I plan on adding is an Alloy import. Okay.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to. I know there's a lot of Alloy lovers out there
Yeah.
that we want to make sure that we help and address. And so, what do you love about Alloy, and what do you think you're going to miss from it?
So I loved Alloy because it was just a dead simple blog. Now, I'm I'm possibly still looking at it through some rose tinted specs, if I'm honest. Um, I love the simplicity of it. I loved that it was just a blog.
Hmm.
I loved that once I had, now I'm thinking back, actually, the settings pane for Alloy and the editor, and setting up the page, there was a conditional stack in there. So where you had a blog list, and then when you clicked on one, the condition would take you in so that it had the topper image and it was different. It was a constrained width on the page and everything else. And now actually I'm thinking about it, it was pretty complicated, but I did, once it was done, it was done.
Hmm.
You had the online CMS, you logged into it, you typed in what you needed to type, and you published, and that was it. You'd set a post to be published, rather than draft, and that was that. I think what I really loved about it, were the embeds and the droplets. And it was never intended to be, I know I had never intended it to be that kind of CMS. Um, but I ended up having, I would say, probably 99% of the content on the original Foundry 2 site was done through Alloy. So, online you could change a header or any body text, anything, and it was all done by double curly bracket macros.
Hmm.
Um, so that was nice. I liked that. Um, did I probably get to a point where I fetishized it? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe.
We all tend to, like for example, I think, your progression of um, learning classes. Okay. Um, so you already loved Foundry. Okay. That was your, you did, right? And so
Yeah.
when maybe Foundation 6 came out and you're like, you wanted to learn that, you already loved Foundry. So trying to learn maybe a new framework and this concept of classes at the same time was like, but I really love Foundry. But then when
Yeah.
Foundry came out with Blacksmith, you're like, well, I love Foundry. So I want to take that extra effort to learn what classes are to use Blacksmith, right? And
Yeah.
that's not a negative. That's just, I think, just how, people work, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, it's just putting in the effort to learn how that is. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was maybe it's the same thing with Alloy, right? You were in love with Foundry, and maybe it's those rose tinted glasses, like you said, right? So you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna learn this Alloy thing, and it's all gonna be roses, right? So yeah, I think that's again, I'm not banging on anything. I'm just saying that I think that's a good point. Um, Cool. Thank you very much. Oh, one more question came in.
Go for it.
So there's a user who loved the Foundry community environment around it. How are you finding the community for I did not plant this question. This is an actual question, I swear.
Cool.
Are you feeling the community is around Foundation?
Um, yeah, I mean the Elixir community was great. Um, I mean, Adam made me an admin on there. I wrote, uh, do all this stuff before you ask for help type post. Um, and there were a number of people there. I know there's a fair few people that there's a fair few names that have come across, um, and that's great. Um, I think I think the Weaver Space community in terms of the people and the interaction is great. I found the Elixir graphics software, community software, much easier to navigate in terms of the order of the replies to posts. It's very much more, well, it's the same software as now Stacks for All.
Hmm.
But it's a small thing. The people
Yeah.
are great. I mean, I continue to believe that people like Gary should start getting paid for all the support that they give. Uh, and it's a new community. I'm, I mean, not being an admin, I'm not on it every day.
Hmm.
But I see, when I scroll through, I see people being helpful. I see questions that, people asking things that I have no clue what they're talking about. But then I don't need to. So, it's great to have the community. It's great to get the answers that you need. As I say, it's great that you can now search inside the videos, because there's a ton of useful information in there, and now you can find it. And
Hmm.
it needs documentation.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Adam. I really appreciate it. I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful talk. I truly appreciate that.
Well, thank you. As a photographer, I wasn't
And your
expecting.
site is lovely. I should say I hadn't visited it before. It is a great website. You've done a stellar job on that.
Thank God for that. I'm gonna get a little badge on there now saying approved by Joe Workman. Um, but I'm glad you like it. That actually does mean a lot. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak. I hope it's been useful to people. And goodness, 27 people on here. I hope I didn't bore them too much, and all the techie stuff I'm sure will be coming up soon.
Yep, exactly. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Adam. I appreciate it. And we'll see you at the
Absolute
hangout,
pleasure.
hopefully.
Yep.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.